welcome on in to another action-packed and live edition of the Between the Hashmarks podcast. As always, I'm Matt Lombardo, joined by my friend, colleague, mentor, the purveyor of the Two Deep Zone on Substack, Mike Tanier is here. Michael, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. I was going to dress as Father Time for the New Year's edition of this show, but I couldn't find my Philip Rivers jersey.
Oh, that's great. Well, you'd also need to rope in 10 kids from the neighborhood and have them hang out behind you as you're doing the show.
Yeah, it's like the Waltons back there. It's like 16 generations of people watching him. Yeah, I threw a 5-yard touchdown. Great job, Philip. Good job. How you doing?
I'm doing great, and Philip Rivers gets to reset the clock on his Hall of Fame candidacy. So we get to talk about Philip Rivers in 5 years from now again. Maybe he'll try to come back again as a play caller by that point in time, but who knows? Before we get into it, a very happy birthday to my father. Papa Lombardo's birthday today. He's turning 68, and one of the few things that I miss about covering a team on a daily basis as a beat writer is he would join me for 1 or 2 trips a year to check out a different stadium. So we've been to Jerry World. He tagged along for that. Went to Atlanta, ate barbecue with Carson Wentz's grandmother at a Kansas City Chiefs tailgate, apparently. So he's been well-traveled. He's been to the Super Bowl when I was at NJ.com. So happy birthday, Pops. Can't wait to celebrate later.
Has he ever been to Lucas Oil Stadium?
He has not.
You could be up there in the stand with Sophie and the little one and everybody clapping. Happy birthday, Papa Lombardo. Do not, if Chris Ballard calls, if Carly Ursty Gordon calls, do not pick up.
Do not pick up. No, I don't need to have to eat the St. Elmo shrimp cocktail to watch him get his ass beat on the field the way Philip Rivers did. Although Rivers played admirably, he did okay for a couple of games until about 8 minutes to go in the fourth quarter last Monday night against the 49ers, when I think he realized that he didn't have just 2 kids anymore.
Exactly right. And the extra strength Motrin was wearing out, and then he started sort of stiffening up in real time. In the shotgun snap, it's like Peter Cushing playing Dracula with the sun coming out. That's what it looked like.
Yes, and a little bit of housekeeping for you. If you enjoy the unhinged sarcasm of the two of us, please go ahead and subscribe in the Apple Podcast Store to the Between the Hashmarks podcast. Leave us those 5-star reviews. They really do help grow the show. You can check out the podcast on my YouTube channel at Matt Lombardo 975. But even more importantly than that, if you enjoy Mike Tanier's firebrand of storytelling, the deep dive into the analytics mixed with dad jokes and superhero analogies, subscribe to the Two Deep Zone on Substack. If you enjoy my reporting, the features that we put out there, we have a fun one coming out tomorrow. Subscribe to Between the Hashmarks on Substack as well. You can follow Mike on Blue Sky at Mike Tanier. I'm Matt Lombardo on Blue Sky at Matt Lombardo NFL on Threads. I think that covers the housekeeping for this week, Mike. But you look at where the season is, you look at where we are on the calendar. It seems like a great time to throw around some New Year's resolutions and handicap the closing stretch, down the stretch they come, as they say, in the playoff race.
Yeah, and even someone as perfect as me might have some New Year's resolutions. For example, I'm going to try and be less grouchy online in 2026. This might mean the end of all of my podcasts because I'm the certified grouch everywhere I go, whether it's here or with Shaz, or if I do one with Jarrett Bailey, or heaven forbid if somebody else has me on, which happens from time to time, I'm the designated grouch. But I'm going to try to be less grouchy. But I got another one. I'm going to ask you yours, but I got another one.
Real quick, before we get to your second one, I need to tell you this. I don't think I've ever told you this. You are my Blue Sky North Star, because when I have a really utterly sarcastic, brutal take about something that I think you might be thinking about on a Sunday, I go and I check to see where your mood is at, to see if I should blast it out there into the ether or if I've crossed a line before putting it out there on social media. So don't get rid of all the grouchiness, because some of us need a barometer and a measuring stick for how to handle ourselves on social media.
So if you say it sounds like me, you don't post it. That's what you're saying.
Correct.
Okay.
I leave that for you. I try not to cross the Tanier line.
Right, especially on Blue Sky where everyone's trying to be positive, and I'm like the one a-hole from Twitter who's still over there trying to do things like Twitter and just trying to stir the pot. And it's I got to try and tamp that down a little bit, but also I've got a couple phrases and terms I'm going to try to retire.
Okay.
And one of them is he's in his bag. Oh, he's
Yeah.
in his bag. What the fuck does that even mean? He called it clever play. Great. Just like, hey, that was an interesting play call by the play caller. He's in his bag. That's one. The other one,
Are we getting deep in the bag of tricks? Because at least bag of tricks like explains
yeah,
what you're referring to. Can we say deep in the bag of tricks?
yes, reach deep
Okay.
into the bag of tricks, right? Or come up with something else, that went to the back of the playbook, or some other thing, like into his hat and pulled a rabbit out. Something besides that. And it's one thing when you're just saying them, like when you're talking quickly. It's different when you're like, I better post this, and like he's in his bag. The other one, and I've never used this one. I haven't used this one in 15 years. That we're going to, and I'm calling on everyone. Teach tape, especially during draft season. This is teach tape. You sound like such a tool when you point to something like, this is teach tape. Oh, I'm sorry. You've been coaching linebackers for 20 years, aren't you? You're not just some 26-year-old who's watching YouTube. You're going to tell me that, like, obviously, when you see something like this, Vic Fangio takes it and he cuts it and splices it and puts it out there. And he shows it to Zach Bond and shows him this is how you're supposed to do it. Come on. Stop saying stuff like that. Oh, that was a great form tackle. Look at this. Isn't this exciting to watch? Don't tell me that you are like a master educator who's like who can go from position to position and know what perfect tape looks like. So we're gonna put those in the same bin.
Spoiler alert, major college coaches do not use the term teach tape. They might watch a practice film or they might watch game tape and they might show you a play on said tape and say, look at this. So that's going to elevate him, or this is how we drew it up in the playbook. They don't say teach tape. I think that's a creation of fandom culture. So if you want to sound smarter, follow Mike's advice.
Right.
Vernacular.
It's not even good grammar.
No.
It's not even like good teaching tape, or this is an educational reels. Teach tape. So we're going to put that with generational talent out the window for all eternity, please. Okay. Going to be a problem. Remember that one from a couple of years ago?
Yeah.
Going to be a problem. It had its little moment and it starts gone. And I'm gonna work on this one with you. Quarterback whisperer.
Yeah, I have to strike that from the vocabulary because we've learned time and time again that some of these guys just get lucky and draft good quarterbacks. Or they get exposed when they don't have a great quarterback. And I'm looking at you, Kevin O'Connell. I'm staring in your direction. Even though J.J. McCarthy had the game slowed down for him a little bit, Sean McVay had Jared Goff at a great point in his career. Sean McVay has Matthew Stafford, who's an MVP. Josh Allen is Josh Allen. Brian Dable did not whisper in his ear and make him an MVP, and neither did certainly Joe Brady.
McDaniel showed up when Brady was like 29 years old. So it's like, oh, look what he's done with Drake May. It's like, okay, fine. He didn't develop anyone else, okay? He was there. He gets this guy who looked like he was going to be good, and like things worked out for him. You're not a quarterback whisperer. You're a coach who got there, and then things went well for you. I'm going to say the same thing with Ben Johnson, frankly, okay? You didn't develop, okay? Did you develop Caleb Williams? We'll see, okay? But yeah, you can coach well. You don't have this special magical thing. Just give him any quarterback and he'll make him good. So we're going to take those. That's all on my list of New Year's resolutions. What about you?
Wow, you told me you made New Year's resolutions. I thought we were getting serious for once on the podcast. So I actually put thought into this thing.
What, you're going to exercise or something? I ain't going to do that.
I'm going to take 14,000 steps a day. I wanted to do it last year because the goal was 5 million steps by the end of the year. I did not reach 5 million steps this year. And that's for the... I'll have to check it out. I think it's like 3,900 or something like that. I'll have to do the math. It was nowhere close. But we're going to tack on a second walk around the neighborhood each day to try and get there by the end of 2026.
Right. You got to get the little one in the stroller and get Sophie. And it's like, oh, we're walking to the park again. You got to do that. 3,900, dude. That's like going to optimal. Yeah, that's like going to the store and back like twice, I think. Right. I might do that going up and down the stairs doing laundry. You definitely got to work on that. But
yes.
Don't you have some for NFL teams, though? Don't you have a few?
I do have some for NFL teams. Why don't you throw them out for me? Because we're buttoning up this post. It's going to be at Between the Hashmarks tomorrow. It's a New Year's resolution for all 32 teams, what they can look forward to, what they need to do going into 2026. Had a lot of fun with some of these, got serious about some others. So we figured, hey, why not on the eve of New Year's Eve throw out the resolutions?
It's a great tradition. Absolutely. I'll throw a couple that like our general readers would be most interested in. Let's start with the Giants.
Yeah, the New York Giants. We're going to go to them here on the magical rough draft because I can never remember anything that I wrote. Find your inner Ben Johnson. We talk about quarterback whisperers not being a thing.
Yeah.
Well, the Ben Johnson system really did unlock Caleb Williams. We talk
Yeah.
about the run concepts with Kyle Monangai and DeAndre Swift. When we talk about walking into Hallis Hall and saying, yo, I need 4 offensive linemen, and then shopping at the top of the market to go get those
Yeah.
offensive linemen, developing a system around Luther Burden and Colston
Mhm.
Loveland. Nothing else matters. Assuming that Joe Shane can at least tolerate Jackson Dart, because we know that he fired Dart's biggest proponent, biggest cheerleader in the building in
Yeah.
Brian Dable, and they're going to be picking in the top 3. Assuming Joe Shane can deal with Jackson Dart being his quarterback, nothing else matters other than Jackson Dart's development. And that means fixing your offensive line and bringing in a head coach with a system to maximize Malik Neighbors, Cam Scatterbo, Theo Johnson, and a wide receiver to be named later.
So the WFAN crowd has already moved on from Dart.
Joe Shane might have as well. Who knows?
Right. That's the thing. It's like it's possible that Joe Shane, in the back of his mind, is like this. This was Dable's kid, and he gets hurt a lot, and he seems like a little bit of a pill.
Yes.
Right. I mean, I find it entertaining, but maybe some people in the building don't. So, but you want to, but you know who else was considered a pill? Caleb Williams.
Yes. And
Right.
who fixed him? Who got him at least to level up and show off a lot of the potential that the Bears saw, making him number 1 overall? Ben Johnson. So
Like it.
Go find your Ben Johnson.
Okay, I like it. How about them? Cowboys? You have
This
one for
one
them?
was made with you in mind.
Oh
This one
God.
was made. I put on my Tanier hat. I don't have the podcasting hat, but I metaphorically put it on the head. Take Jerry Jones's keys away.
Yes.
It is time to go get a general manager, because I saw Sheil Kapadia post something about this on Blue Sky about a week or 2 ago. Just about everything the Cowboys tried to do worked. You trade for George Pickens. He's the NFL's 3rd leading receiver, 1,420 yards, 9 touchdowns. Dak Prescott leads the league in passing. You're guiding the NFL's number 1 rated offense. Dallas is on track to finish in the top 5 in EPA, which is expected points added, which is a big leap from where they were when Dak was banged up in 2024. Schottenheimer seemed to work out. The hires seemed to work, but then Jerry Jones decided to cut off his nose to spite his face, or pull out a revolver and shoot himself in the foot, whatever metaphor we want to use here, drive the car off the road when you traded Micah Parsons, and it completely torpedoed the defense. So I don't know if it's Stephen Jones needing to have an intervention. I don't know if it's a search committee arriving at the Star in Frisco and saying, hey, you guys have a problem here. Let's go find a general manager. But I think it's time to get a GM in Dallas.
And it starts right now, and I'm not so much worried about the draft. They've got these extra picks, but they've drafted pretty well. You have to look at those draft classes and say, yeah, that hasn't been the problem. Jerry isn't out there. If Jerry's out there standing for somebody, it's like a Heisman winner who's going to be okay anyway. It's the Pickens extension.
Yeah.
You can't have that turn into a thing, because Pickens will turn around and be like, I don't like what I'm hearing. I'll just see if the Bills or somebody else has money. And you can't just undo the successes that the Cowboys did have by doing the exact same thing.
Right. And imagine the Bills, I'll throw out there the Jets, who have more money than they know how to spend, and they're going to get a rookie quarterback. You're going to want to have a deep threat and a true number 1 wide receiver for him to walk into. He'd be a great fit there. You just look at the teams with money, and you're either going to write the blank check, or you're going to let him walk, and this is all going to be for naught. And it just, I don't know, it just seems like a really tricky situation. If you want to let Jerry, run the scouting department, fine, but go get a GM to handle free agency.
All right. I like that. Yeah. All right. So we've been beating around the bush. How about them Eagles?
Go figure out. How did I phrase this? If you're the Philadelphia Eagles going into 2026, you need to figure out who you are and who you want to be.
Yeah.
Right? Because you look at the offense this year, and I'm going to credit you with the final line of this section. Only 8 teams in the league are averaging fewer yards than the Eagles' 311 yards of total offense per game. Only the Panthers are inside the NFC bracket and scoring fewer than the Eagles' 21.1 points per game. They need to find a way, regardless of what they do going into next year, they need to figure out how their offense is more than, hey, we're going to have Jalen Hurts chuck it downfield to A.J. Brown or Devonta Smith 3 or 4 times a game for chunk plays to make up for stretches where the offense completely goes away. Now, you look at just going deep inside the analytics and the numbers here. Last year, for all the worries this year, they ranked 12th in expected points added on offense per play. Last year, they were 6th. So it's a flaw, but it's not a fatal flaw. It's not ideal, but you need to figure it out. So as you told me via text before we went on the air, it would help if the Eagles could start figuring out how to complete one pass in the second half every week.
Right. There's been 2 times this year where they did not complete a pass. And someone did an Elias search. And the last time that happened was 1987. 1987 was a strike year. So whatever happened with that was probably involving a bunch of guys who were like insurance salesmen and window factory employees before they went out there. And it's definitely a problem. You know what I'd like to see the Eagles call on offense?
What's that?
Plays. Yeah. Like actual plays. Like it reaches the point where it doesn't look like plays. It looks like early Tecmo Bowl where you only had 4 plays. That's what it looks like right now, where it's a Saquon up the middle, and then there's the Brown, and then there's a Smith, and then there's one little Goddard goofball thing. I want to see them call plays. You talk about the offensive coordinator situation. I'm not sure they have one.
Yeah. And you juxtapose what the Eagles are doing with what the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan are doing right now. You talk about plays. The one that sticks in my mind is the way that Shanahan schemed Jawan Jennings open deep downfield with Ricky Pearsall just a few yards away, perfectly positioned to throw the block that sprung him for the touchdown that put the game just out of reach. You don't see the Eagles with any of those intricate route concepts. You just see go routes and then a couple of skinny posts or slant patterns deep in the red zone, because Dallas Goedert is now the red zone weapon that the tush push used to be. Like, there's just no identity. There's no creativity. I had so much fun watching that Bears-Niners game on Sunday night because it was 2 bright offensive minds reaching deep into their bag of tricks to call all kinds of interesting play concepts, and it paid off and it lit up the scoreboard. The Eagles just feel like they can't get out of their own way.
Yeah, I was jealous too. Watching those games. It's like, yeah, I'll take the wild and wacky shootout over, the 13-12 against the Bills. And it's like, oh, we're going to spend the entire second half hanging on for dear life. And maybe Josh Allen won't make enough plays. He didn't make enough plays. Don't like that as your path to victory, though. History tells you if you keep giving Josh Allen the opportunities, he'll take enough of them to beat a team.
And he had the opportunity at the end of that game. I mean, people have debated on talk radio. My father called me out of the blue last night just to talk about the 2-point play at the end of the game.
He missed the throw.
The play call worked. He missed the throw.
He missed the throw.
Joe Brady schemed the receiver open in the back of the end zone. Yes, we can talk about a little bit of the pressure that had him drift a little bit to the left. But 85 to 90% of the time, Josh Allen makes that throw. The play call worked for the Bills. They did what they had to do. There's none of that creativity in the Eagles offense right now.
No, there isn't. Sometimes you see goal line plays and they're in a little bit better shape, but you have to get to the goal line, and the Eagles are like near the end of the league and actually reaching the red zone. Like, their red zone conversion rate's actually high, because if you only get there like once a week, you better punch it in. Otherwise, we'll be talking about them as a playoff team right now, and that's what we're doing.
And one playoff team, I guess technically for now, 3-ish that we have to talk about in the NFC South. I think we both had similar jokes on Sunday, because I wrote in the column, just relegate the entire division to the ACC, even though I'm not sure that any of them could cover the spread against Wake Forest. And then I saw that you on Blue Sky posted to relegate the loser to the ACC. You tell me that you have a plan to fix the NFC South.
Yeah. Now, by the way,
how on earth do you shine that turd? Because that's the division nobody seems to want to win, and nobody seems to be able to win right now.
You give the playoff berth to an all-star team of the division. You cancel Saints Falcons, which has relevance, because I believe if the Falcons win, that means the Panthers win. I don't think.
Panthers win. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Right. And cancel the Saturday nighter against between the Buccaneers and the Panthers, and you create an all-star team. So okay. So the all-star team: Bijan at running back, obviously. Okay. Chris Olave, borrow a saint, with the Bucs wide receivers, and that's your receiver core. I guess you can put Kyle Pitts at tight end.
I want Tedero McMillan in the mix there.
Yeah, put Ted in. We'll put Ted in. He'll be the deep threat in that group. Falcons offensive line. I think that you just bring them on. They're a solid offensive line.
Defensive block for Bijan. Yeah, they can block for Bijan too.
They can block for Bijan. They protect Kirk Cousins too. Like he's basically practically Phillip Rivers, and he's rarely on the ground. Their Falcons offensive line is never the Falcons' problem. Okay, so defensive line of Derek Brown, Vita Vea, Chase Young, and those Falcons rookies. Good defensive line. Linebacker, I didn't bother writing down. Just get some good linebackers to get them. Okay. Cornerbacks from the Panthers, J.C. Horn and Mike Jackson. Safeties, Antoine Winfield and Jesse Bates.
Big bounce back game for Jesse Bates the other night.
Okay. There's a kicker. Probably McLaughlin's probably the kicker from the Bucs. I don't know. I haven't been looking at kickers. On odd number weeks, Bryce Young's your quarterback. Even number weeks, you throw Baker out there. Okay, so in week 1, Bryce Young, because he's Superman on odd number weeks, he gets the call. And then in the second round, you put Baker out there. Maybe you platoon Baker and Kirk Cousins in the even number weeks. And you'll have Canales coach, because I know they haven't tuned Canales out. Todd Bowles, I don't know. He could he's talking to brick walls.
And it's bizarre because you talk to people inside the league 2 weeks ago and they think you're crazy to even suggest that Todd Bowles could be on the hot seat. But you look at the way that team has performed down the stretch, losing the game to Carolina and losing in Miami, of all places, when you still had everything in front of you. I don't know if they tuned them out. I don't know if they quit. I don't know if they just aren't good enough. I don't know if they were an early season schedule mirage, but something has gone dramatically wrong there. There's too much talent for them to be limping to the finish line the way they are right now.
It feels like a tune-out. It really feels like a tune-out, and just the flatness when you go back and watch that, and just guys missing assignments. And Baker seems to be playing his own game right now. Like I don't want to watch the Buccaneers. I'm rooting for the Panthers. Because it's just it's like a crime against the sport of football to get into the playoff chase and be in a situation where they put the easiest opponents in the world against you. Just knock down the pins and you don't do it. It's like, well, then you don't deserve it.
Niraj on the go checks in as a Bucs fan. I am ready for the season to end on Saturday. That's fair. I think that's fair as a Tampa Bay fan.
They got that 2023 Eagles feeling. It's like, okay, just don't do this to us. Of course, Eagles lost in playoffs to the Bucs that year. You know, a couple of years go by, things change, but it was a younger iteration of that team. It wasn't even the Brady team, was it? It was a Baker team. I don't even remember.
It was a Baker team. But I mean, I don't know about you, but I look around the league right now, and I just don't see an elite team. I don't see a juggernaut. I think that there are some teams with really good components. I think there are teams with really good bones. I think that this is, for the first time I can remember, you're walking into the playoffs. It's obviously different because you don't have Patrick Mahomes and the Frankenstein monster that is the Kansas City Chiefs. It just seems like you put these 14 teams in a hat. I could pull a name from the hat. Maybe we'll do this next week, and we'll build the case that team can win the Super Bowl, because it really feels like it's anybody's game at this point.
That's absolutely it. And before Mahomes and the Chiefs, we were conditioned by Brady and the Patriots, and they usually had their one or two designated super competitors with them. You know, for years it was, whoever Manning was coaching or whatever, or it was whoever Drew Brees was quarterbacking. And then you had Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, so you had like the unholy trinity in the AFC. Two of them mostly gone, and Josh Allen reeling. So it is that. Well, let me ask you this. We have a bunch of questions lined up.
Yeah.
I going back and forth on the Rams. The Rams poopy pants last night.
They did.
What does it mean to you?
I don't know that it means much, because they're kind of locked into that 5 seed versus 6 seed. We're going on the road no matter what type of situation. But if you're going to take that approach, treat it like a preseason game, right? Like
Yeah.
if you don't care, and the
Right.
way that they played, especially in the first half, it was like they were checked out and didn't care. Then don't play Matthew Stafford, right? If
Mhm.
Devontae Adams is hurt and you don't want to risk Matthew Stafford getting hurt, then don't play him and don't draw up such an unimaginative game plan in the first half.
Yeah.
I still think there's a switch that they can flick because there's so much talent across the board there. And I saw what they did to Sam Darnold in the first round of the playoffs a year ago. It, I'm not sold on them being anything other than one of the 3 or 4 best teams, but it just seems like they decided to call off the dogs last night. Did you see it any differently than that?
Yeah, it was hard because it looked like it was a situation that snowballed. Okay. Oh, fourth down stop near the goal line. Oh, we had a Puka bomb that was negated by a penalty. You get the pick six. Bijan does a 90-yarder. It's 21-0 up until the Bijan 90-yarder. It's like, this seems like an even game. Why is it 14-0? And then you get the comeback. I wouldn't be surprised if I heard later on if Aaron Schatz told me, hey, post-game win expectancy, the Rams could have won that game or whatever. The thing is, we now know what it looks like when the Rams lose to a really good opponent, like the Eagles, Seahawks, Niners. There's special teams mistakes, and it's down to the wire. So we know that. We now have 2 examples of how the Rams lose to a weaker opponent. This one and the Panthers, almost identical. Pick six, flukiness, and it's on the road.
Matthew Stafford implosion, right?
Well,
And an
yeah,
unexpected Matthew Stafford implosion, especially against the Panthers. But you look at what they're lining up as. It's either they're going to Philadelphia, they're
yeah,
going to the Bears, where it's going to be freezing cold
yeah,
outside, suboptimal for Matthew Stafford against a defense that are turnover vultures, or you're
yes.
going to whatever the NFC South is. So I just part of me wonders if McVay decided that they were just going to call off the dogs a little bit last night. But part of me thinks that
Yeah,
if you can't handle your business against the Falcons and
yeah.
you're just going to get beat up in that fashion, then maybe it is time to worry a little bit.
Yeah, it's almost like you don't want to be going into Charlotte again with the rain, but you don't want to be going into Chicago with the cold or Philly with the crowd noise and
And the
like
wind.
and the wind and shades of last year, etc. But I guess it was almost the same storyline the previous week. You didn't quite finish your business against the Seahawks, obviously a greater opponent, so you're coming in like this. The flip side of that, because we're talking about who faces who, what should the Eagles be doing in week 18? Now, we all kind of see the same thing. If you get the Packers, you get a beat up team.
Yeah.
You get the Rams, you don't. In fact, they might get Devontae Adams back, and you got to worry there. And you got the Niners and everything. Rest the starters or roll.
Yeah, I think you take a hybrid approach here. I think you have to try to shake that offense out of whatever the hell that was in Orchard Park on Sunday. I'd play the starters, at least the offensive starters, for a half. I'd
Mhm.
play them the first half, see if you can't get a couple good drives together, string a couple big plays together, find yourself with some sort of identity, and then I'd put everybody in bubble wrap. But if you came to me and said, Dan Quinn and that defense seemed pretty pissed off about how that game
Ooh,
ended
yeah.
in Landover. We have nothing to play for. We might get a little bit chippy, so we're gonna, take our shots. And who cares? It's the end of the game. If a guy gets suspended, so what?
Yeah.
I could be persuaded into resting going into the postseason. There's a lot of variables here, but if I were Nick Sirianni, I'd probably trot him out there for at least the fourth quarter, see if I can't get the good feelings rolling, the good vibes rolling again, and then just get ready for the playoffs.
Yeah, and another variable is how healthy is Jalen Hurts really? He took that big shot. I guess it was early in the third quarter. I think I wrote second quarter was early in the third quarter going out of bounds. He takes a pretty big hit. And then that's when everything flatlines and like every element of the offense seems to disappear. If he's just banged up slightly, just call it off. Just
Right.
call it off. Right.
Right. I mean, there's nothing to be gained really from
Right.
a seeding standpoint. I guess you can hope that you can play your way into the 2 seed and maybe get a chance at 2 home games. But
Yes.
the way the bracket is playing out, I don't think that there's a discernible difference with who they'd be playing in the first round or the path. And really, when you look at Philadelphia's path to a Super Bowl, Mike, it comes down to that defense playing at the level it is and figuring the offense out.
Yeah.
If the offense that showed up in Buffalo is what shows up for any of these games, I'm
Right.
not sure that they're making it out of the second round anyway.
Unless they're playing the Seahawks, and the Seahawks
Yeah.
offense shows up doing its thing, and then you're just in another one of these games where it's like, oh, God, we have to watch this. Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I just lost my train of thought.
That's okay. That's okay.
It's been a long year.
Kind of
It's
like
been
the
a long
Eagles
year.
offense lost its train of thought many
Oh,
times.
Swallow is calling my plays in my brain. I've stopped. I can't get a first down. I can't get a verbal first down. What has happened?
Who's the team that could be one and done? The biggest disappointment for you?
Yeah, you're gonna hate me. The New England Patriots. Fraudzilla.
We're still leaning hard into the product of the schedule argument here with them.
Product of the third easiest schedule in NFL history, documented by DVOA. That was ridiculous what happened on Sunday. And they were jumping up and down like they had just won the NIT tournament because they were beating Green Rutgers. Sorry. No. Again, I don't want to trivialize how good Drake May has been, his development, his performance, things like that. They're going to get in there. If they don't get the top seed overall, they're going to get in there. They're going to face somebody who is going to put up a fight. And it's going to be the first fight they've seen since, I guess, except for the Bills games, the first fight they've really seen. They're going to get smacked in the mouth, and they're not going to know how to respond. And I'm calling my shot with that team.
I'm going to call another shot. I'm just going to flip this argument on its ear before I give you my team. I think the Super Bowl winner comes out of the AFC. I think whoever survives that AFC gauntlet, I think that they're going to wind up winning. I just think that it's deeper from a defensive standpoint, which matters. You're talking about really difficult environments at the top of the bracket, going into Mile High. If New England survives, going into New England, the Jaguars are turnover vultures. The Texans are just a pack of wild wolves on defense that like brainwash themselves into thinking that if there are four of us around the football, we're going to give up a big play. And it's working. It just seems like whoever survives on that side has a far better chance to emerge more battle tested than anything on the NFC side of the ledger.
And I think battle test is kind of what this comes down to for me, where we look at these very flawed teams, the Rams and the Eagles and all, and we realize they've all played each other over and over and over again. Then you go to the less flawed teams and you look at their schedules. I'll put the Broncos on that list. And it's like, you haven't been tested very much. The Bears have now been tested a little bit more. I think you get a better sense of them. The one that has not been tested, where the test is the Bills, was the Patriots. And I keep going back to it, and it's like, you look like a very much like just a false positive, and you're going to go against one of these teams, all the things you described, with their defenses, with the fact that they've had to manufacture victories like this, and you're going to have that learning lesson that puts you into happy to be here, wait till next year mode.
The one team that I think is the one and done disappointment waiting to happen is the perennial one and done disappointment waiting to happen. It's the Chargers. And I surveyed a handful of executives and scouts Saturday night and Sunday morning for the column on Monday, and a couple of them were all in on the Chargers still. One of them said that it's either the Rams or the Chargers. They're on either side of the bracket. They'd fear them. And a high-ranking front office source told me he wants no part of Justin Herbert and the Chargers. I don't see it because of the offensive line. Right. I mean, I think that losing Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater were fatal blows to them. And I just look at the rest of that conference. Denver, elite defense. The Patriots, really good defense, explosive offense. Jaguars, really good opportunistic defense. They shut down Denver when it mattered a couple weeks ago. The Bills, Josh Allen's there, right? Like how are the Chargers getting through that at far from peak capacity and peak productivity?
Did you text this person before the Saturday game?
It was after.
It was after. Maybe they were out with the misses and hadn't watched the film yet. The only thing the Chargers did right offensively, Herbert had a bomb. He had to play where the guy's dragging him down and he completes the pass. Otherwise, it was third down penalties by the Texans defense. That was it. It was like Herbert looks like he's dead on the ground, but he threw his leg up, tripping penalty. Oh, there was defensive contact, so that sack for like a loss of 14 didn't count, and now it's first down. That was the Chargers' offense. I'm impressed by what they've done this year to get back to this. Right. considering the side of injuries, considering on defense how many like no-name type guys there are who are coming through and making the big plays on defense. But this is running the gauntlet.
Yeah.
It just seems
You're going to be a 6 seed. You're going to be like a 6 seed, right? I mean,
right.
or maybe the 5th seed, depending on what happens this weekend. I just don't see with what they're going to have to go through. Sean Dillon Weir checks in. I'm curious about the negatives about the Seahawks offense. 8th in passing yards, 2nd in scoring. Yeah, they aren't pretty in the first half of games. In the second half of the season, but they have a crushing points differential with that defense. Yeah, but for me, it comes down to don't go full Sam Darnold, and it comes down to I look at that Rams game, and it was almost like Clint Kubiak was scared to death of Darnold and tried to hide him for 3 quarters. You saw the 2 turnovers and eventually a couple really big throws by Darnold to bail them out. I love Jackson Smith and Jigba. I love AJ Barner and Elijah Arroyo, one of my favorite standouts from Mobile last year. They have the pieces. They have 2 really good running backs. It's just trepidation for me that they're not going to be able to overcome the Sam Darnold mistake in the postseason, like they did against the Rams.
Yeah. Really, over like the last 5 weeks, if you watch their games, including a couple of the blowouts, like the Panthers game looks like a blowout on the scoreboard. I think you can go back to the Falcons game, same thing. And you look at how they scored their points. And if it wasn't flat out a defensive or a return touchdown, look how many times turnover, ball on the 30, 30 yards to score, and that's where the big play comes from. Even in the Rams game, it's like, we gave you the ball here, and then Darnold gets the 2 completions, and that's how you get the touchdown. So when you look at the offensive stats for the Seahawks, particularly over the last 4 or 6 weeks, you're almost looking at defense special team stats that have been morphed over into the offense because they're giving them these many scoring opportunities. And that's the concern. You have a team in the Seahawks that like is 6-3 against weaker opponents at halftime consistently. And that's a worry. Just like for the Eagles, it's like, oh, you're up 13-0, and now you have to hold on for dear life. It's like the mirror image of that. And that's where a lot of that pessimism, skepticism comes from. In addition to the fact that I watched Darnold try to cram the ball up his nose against the Panthers. I can't believe I'm watching this as a playoff quarterback right now.
Yeah, that Panthers game was kind of a rock fight for the first half, right? It wasn't until a couple of timely turnovers on defense, and they tripled down on Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet late in that game. And it's great to have those hammers. It's great to have 2 running backs that can close out games. But against Carolina, I'm not sure that you should be forced to rely on that.
It was literally, by the way, retire, rock, fight, New Year's resolution. Okay. And be less grouchy and combative during podcasts. Okay.
Tug of war? What metaphor do you want there? Slogfest? What do you want? They were stuck in the mud. They were stuck in the slush, those 2 teams.
Yeah, caveman battle, barbarian brawl, something. I don't know.
Barbarian brawl.
Barbarian brawl.
Barbarian brawl trend in 2026.
It's a barbarian brawl. It's a barbarian battle. It was literally whatever it was at halftime, 3-3, I believe. And it was Chuba Hubbard fumbles, ball on the 30, touchdown. Young interception, ball on the 35, whatever, touchdown.
35, yeah.
Right. So, and you got plays from Charbonnet. Yeah, you did get stuff like that, but that's literally what was going on in that game. And if you go back, mirror image Falcons game, mirror image end of the Seahawks game, the Rams game, except you had to come back from further against a better opponent.
Yep. Who's the team that we should care about that we probably have no business even giving damn about in the AFC North or the NFC South with the 1 spot still open?
None of them. I mean, I guess the one that's most likely to just like do it and not even realize they did it is the Panthers. But if I actually was scared of a team, it would be the Ravens.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. I think all of these teams are one and done. And it's kind of a travesty that anybody from the NFC South is getting in, let alone a home game in the playoffs.
Right.
but it's the Ravens, and you saw why at Lambeau Field. I know that those were backup defensive players across the board for the Packers, and they're so banged up. But you still have Derrick Henry. There's still a ton of talent on that defense, and if they get in, you're talking about playing the Texans. So maybe the defense makes enough plays against C.J. Stroud to turn him into September Stroud, which is all you need to do for one game in the postseason. And remember, back in Week 5 in the blowout win, they were up against the Inner Harbor Dock Association. It was
right.
Cooper Rush at quarterback. It was second and third string defensive players across the board. Maybe it's different this time around when John Harbaugh remembers, I can hand the ball to Derrick Henry 37 times a game, and it's going to work out fine. So if anybody can win one game out of that slop, I think it's Baltimore.
That's it. And if you looked at it the way, say it was college football or college basketball, and the voters came in, and a bunch of us came in, and we got to make these decisions. You say
had up on the rack before we went in the room to decide and debate these teams.
Yeah. Grab the quadruple whiskeys. I know they're all taking, because look at the decisions they make. You don't become a college football person like that if you're sober ever. But you would say, a team with a 1-5 start due to injuries. And then even with the Ravens' losses down the stretch, you look at their down the stretch record, and then you say, Lamar Jackson, and you put them in the playoffs, and that's what that's what you would do. And that's kind of what I'm looking at with this particular team, where, they could be trending. All those arguments you make to put them in, that's it. But even they're a long shot.
And I just want to take a moment here to reflect on Aaron Rodgers caring more about not getting sacked than clinching a playoff spot and putting themselves in this position where you could lose two in a row after losing to that Drek in Cleveland, all because you didn't want to go down in history as the guy who was sacked by Myles Garrett to break Michael Strahan's single-season sack record. I just want to pause and reflect on the game plan and the philosophy and everything that happened in Cleveland last week.
Yeah, everything the Steelers have done since about week 6, they've gotten sucked into the Aaron Rodgers narrative. They are now all the supporting cast for what Aaron Rodgers wants, he's mad, so he goes on a winning streak. He doesn't want to get hurt, so he goes on a losing streak. He gets injured, and we have to hear about his toughness and everything else like that. He misses a week, he comes back, all this other stuff. They're trapped in that sauce right now. And I don't want that to continue through the playoffs. At some visceral level, it could, because they could win games 100 different ways. But Marcus Valdez-Scantling, he's going to get a dozen passes. Do they know Alan Lazard is on the waiver wire? Do they know? Does he know? Did they not bring him in? I guess, look, Adam Thielen is a better version of Alan Lazard. Yeah, you're right. But that's what that team is. And that game, the end of that game was ridiculous. And the fact that the game came to that end, that they couldn't just manufacture a bunch of field goal drives. The Browns offense stopped after the first 2 series.
Yep.
Manufacture some field goal drives. Hey, that may require you to stand in the pocket a little bit longer, Aaron, if you don't feel like it. Get that win. We're not talking about that game at all this week.
Right. And they would have clinched. They would have been preparing for the playoffs. Everything would be fine. Now I'm kind of hoping that karma comes and smacks them in the ass in the form of Derrick Henry running over them. And they can sit home for not caring about the postseason in Week 17.
They can hoist their 9-8 record, non-losing season trophy again.
Hanging on the banner.
Hanging on the banner. Have some pierogies. Yay. 8 more years of Tomlin. 8 more years of veteran quarterback. Phillip Rivers, 2026. Make it happen, Steelers. Make it happen.
So now we've talked about the quarterback who might not matter. Who's the guy that the entire thing hinges on? This was a fascinating question. You are apparently going non-quarterback according to the email. Who's your guy here? Who do the playoffs hinge on?
Okay, I picked an oddball. And that is Ariante Ursary, the left tackle of the Houston Texans. Okay. And I struggle because I have struggled saying Ariante Ursary. I'm almost certain I said it right this time. When he's healthy, the Texans' offensive line is below average. When he's not healthy, as in last week, they are below the Chargers in terms of ridiculous absurdity. They had a guy out there by the name of Jared Kingston, I think from the Kingston Trio. He was playing last week. Blake Fisher, I think, was playing 3 positions. It was nightmarish. And you saw it if you saw the second half of that game against the Chargers. It was 2 quarterbacks playing in traffic. Yeah. If you get Ursary out there, The Texans' offense goes from non-existent to mediocre, and the Texans' offense mediocre plus the Texans' defense best of the NFL is Super Bowl appearance. They get to 20 points, and they drag your quarterback to hell, and they keep him there for 4 quarters, whether it's Herbert, Allen, Mahomes. They've done it to everybody. You know they'll do it to May. Aaron Rodgers might fake an injury if he's got to face these guys. Okay. Then the Texans are that team. So that's why I'm going on. He was hurt last week. I believe he's on his way back. He should be back for the playoffs. I'm going to say it one more time. Ariante, Ursary, rookie left tackle, Houston Texans. That's my guy it all hinges on.
I love that you went there because I think that we've evolved over the last 2 or 3 weeks from when people blasted me on social media for calling the Texans one of the more complete teams in football. Because when you have that defense, you don't need to square the circle. The circle can come to like here.
Right.
And not many teams are even getting here. When you look at the 2 defenses in Chicago and San Francisco the other night, when you look at the offense in Philadelphia, when you look at the concerns about how battle-tested you are and how well you can close in New England, when you look at the Rams, kind of this late season slide,
and the special teams.
Kind of great. And the special teams, you fired your special teams coach in the midst of a playoff run. All I need to get to is 20 points with the Texans, with that defense, as you said. And Stroud is playing great. They're running the ball with Woody Marks a little bit when they can pedal down on the running game. They're one of the toughest outs in football. So I love that pick. It's a bust-out pick, which I'd expect from you, and you surpass those expectations.
A little outside the box, and I picked a name I have a hard time saying, which I rarely do on podcasts. In fact, I usually cut and paste his name when I'm writing him. But who do you have as your one guy it all hinges on?
I did not go obscure.
Good.
I went Bo Nix because there's a good chance that the Broncos are going to be the number 1 seed. Tough place to play at Mile High. Denver's 8th in the league in DVOA, which is 3rd among playoff teams on the AFC side of the bracket. He's 10th in EPA per play this season, but 3rd in the AFC among playoff teams behind Drake May and Josh Allen, playing a tougher schedule than Drake May. He's 6th in passing yards, 7th in passing touchdowns. He has 9 touchdown passes to 2 interceptions in games against playoff teams. But then you'll look at what happened against Jacksonville, and you look at a team that's of a similar style of defense with an offense that can put up points as well, and you ask him to come through in the clutch, and it doesn't happen. All the comeback victories are amazing. The numbers are off the charts for a second-year guy, considering that there aren't a lot of sure things in that supporting cast. But without a Patrick Mahomes to go through, it just seems like with that defense behind him, if they get 2 home games, it might come down to Bo Nix in the AFC.
Right. And with him, I guess it's not so much that I worry about him in the clutch because we've seen a bunch of comebacks. I worry about him making sure that it doesn't have to be clutch. Like, if your defense is out there and they're putting these games away, and we can say the same thing about the Eagles offense, or we can say the same thing about Darnold, get the points when you get them. Get the lead and let this turn. I'm just checking right now. Denver Broncos first quarter opponents have outscored them 64-63. This is a 13-3 team that is being outscored in the first quarter. So if you don't want to be clutch, don't be clutch. Get out there. Run the system, get the points early in the game. And I think if Bo Nix can do that, be a consistent guy like in the first half, in the first 25 minutes of these games, then we're not talking about these things. But you're right, so much hinges on him. And he is a little bit of an unknown. Yeah, they made the playoffs last year. It was a house money situation. Where is he right now? What will he do in this scenario, especially against these tough defenses?
It's a much better spot, right? I mean, you have a better running back behind you. You're at home versus going into the Buffalo buzzsaw like they were last year in the playoffs. You have that experience, so you're not going to be too big for the moment. And you have one of the most opportunistic defenses out there. So, I look at the playoffs, and we can talk about this being Josh Allen's validation moment. We can talk about if the Texans can get it done on the back of a defense. We can talk about, in the NFC, if Caleb Williams rises to the moment, if the Rams can put it all together. It just seems like Bo Nix might be the linchpin for the Broncos, and if they're the number 1 seed, I think he matters more than anybody.
That's true, and it looks like they're trending to be the number 1 seed. It sounds like I think Harbaugh said Herbert's resting, Because I would, after last week, I wouldn't put Herbert out there in just some game against a team that has something to play for, certainly. And it means like the Broncos, again, somebody on the Shots podcast was like, the Broncos are just as fraudulent schedule-wise as the Patriots. And it's like, no, the Broncos have had an easy schedule. Again, historically easy schedule. The mathematics back this up. But there is a little bit of, you faced the third-string quarterback last week for the Chiefs or Christmas. Now you're going to be facing... I forget who Justin Herbert's backup is. It's not Easton Stick.
It's Trey Lance.
Oh, God. Okay, you're facing Trey Lance. Get in there, get home field advantage, and then you put yourself in that position to maybe Bo Nix can win, and maybe you don't have to worry until the second round.
Yeah, I mean, look, they beat Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. They blew the doors off of the Houston Texans, or they beat them 18-15, so it didn't blow the doors off, but a win's a win. They beat Patrick Mahomes, right? There's some with decent wins on the ledger. They beat Green Bay, with Green Bay still having everything in front of it as a potential number 1 or 2 seed in the NFC, right. And they came up short against the Jaguars. So I'm not seeing, byproduct of a schedule when you're talking about doing what they did, especially some of these games being on the road.
No, it's more like you can call it a soft schedule. If you're looking at mathematically, soft schedule, not this, you haven't played anybody, you're a joke, you're a fool. And again, it's also a team that was in the playoffs last year. So we've kind of seen them do this to a degree, not like, they just came from nowhere this year and have been beating the Jets every other week.
Yep. What's your circle game for? We're going to tighten this up here into the 1 o'clock window that is just filled with dreck. What are you going to be watching on Sunday?
I'm going to be watching the Texans-Colts. I like watching the Texans defense. They're going to still be playing. And I know I don't have to worry about Phillip Rivers dying because Riley Leonard is getting the start. And I believe the young man's name is Seth Hannigan, was signed to the practice squad. I really hope Phillip Rivers is inactive because the last thing I want to see is Phillip Rivers coming off the bench because Riley Leonard got hurt. If that's the case, I want to see Jonathan Taylor playing Wildcat, frankly, before I see that. But interesting game. Game still has some meaning. So that's as good as it's going to get at the 1 o'clock window. How about you?
I hate myself. So I'm going to have on the main TV of the 3 in the command center, I'm going to have Browns-Bengals on.
Okay.
Just to see if Myles Garrett is going to get this thing done, because, you kind of played with your food a little bit down the stretch. I mean, 3 weeks ago, we're talking about you as a fringe outsider MVP candidate because you're going to blow the doors off this record that is, stood for 2 decades. Are you going to get it done? Are you going to sack Joe Burrow? Is Joe Burrow going to survive? Zach Taylor's going to play him for some reason. I don't know why you're trotting him out there with this at stake, but I hate myself. So I'm going to watch 2 mediocre teams and see if Myles Garrett can break the record.
I want to see that too. I know we're going to have that on the screen at the bar. I want to see Myles Garrett go for it. I don't want to see Joe Flacco out there under these circumstances. This is Jake Browning. This is your chance to earn that contract you got a couple of years ago that you wound up at the bottom of the bench. But that is fun. And that's kind of the essence of the 1 o'clock games. I know for a couple of years there, it was like you're waiting for Mike Evans to get his 1,000th yard. Yeah. That was like one of the things you put in there. Let's watch it. You get to see a little Shador. People are curious about Shador. I've been saying things about him without even bothering to watch the games. Get your Shador on. That's not a bad one there. So we can watch that one. We can watch Colts Texans. We watch Jaguars Titans. That one has a little meaning.
We really dropped the ball here. We dropped the ball here because if there was ever a Sunday that's built for you to hop on the train and schlep into suburban Philly and watch the games on the command center with the 3 TVs, this was the weekend. We dropped the ball getting it on the books because I don't think either one of us are going to be zeroed in on these games for our Monday columns. This would have been the one. We could have done a little drinkity drink podcast after, but maybe next year we'll circle it on the calendar. Hey, Tanier, get over to this side of the river.
To share with you how it works, I always do the playoff previews, so I don't really cover Week 18 except for the games that matter. And obviously, there'll be talk about the Ravens-Steelers game because you got to talk about that in the playoff previews. And that usually goes until 1-something in the morning. But I always have one too many drinks on the 1 o'clocks. So I've got all my prep writing done. All the stats are already inserted. And then I'm have a throbbing headache at 1 in the morning trying to put them in. Wait, I've forgotten. How do you spell Ariante Ursary? I got to get that name in there. And it turns out to be a mess. Now, this year I'm going to do it in 2 stages.
Okay.
NFC and AFC. The AFC will actually go out at noon on Monday. so that I could get the one done. So theoretically, you could have a couple drinks, get that NFC one done because you'll pretty much know everything. You're just inserting. But I'm not getting on Suburban Station. Not this time.
Not this time. We'll circle it for next year. For me, it comes down to Joe Stazak, former radio partner, good friend.
Yeah.
He's jumped in, filled in a couple times on the pod. He's my de facto editor late at night on a Sunday. Mine's always Control F XXX. Did I miss an XXX to fill in a stat, to fill in a yards per play or an advanced metric that I'm hoping to get off of Next Gen Stats? XXX, make sure that the XXX are filled in before they get to Stazak, because who knows what it turns into once he will get it with some of those placeholders in there.
That's exactly it. You better not put XXXX because XXX will find it. Actually, XXS will find XXXX, but it won't find XX. So you have to watch out for that. So I'll put insert here in big letters. And I always find the last one at like 1:05 a.m. right in the middle of like the first capsule. It's like, oh God, yes, I have to go find the first quarter statistics for Baker Mayfield. Why did I do this to myself? But that's part of the deal.
Insert quote here, waiting for a text message to get back, right?
Yes. Insert quote here, and you're waiting for the text back, but you don't know if it'll come.
It's either text back or like dive into a transcript, because the thought is always get the exclusive quote. It's always text the coach of a rival or somebody on a bye week or former player, and if they don't get back, hurry up and go to the transcript and find something that fits what you're trying to say narratively. But you don't want to leave the insert quote here into the published copy, because that's just not professional.
It looks a little bit Bush League. But and then you go to the transcript, you realize there's no transcripts. You have to go to the video.
That's the worst at 12:45 in the morning.
Right. And you have to listen through the entire press conference for the video. And like, I think I knew who asked that question. Coach, talk about the fourth quarter decision. And it's like, you know what? I could just cut the whole paragraph. Just cut the paragraph. Cut the paragraph. Oh, God.
On Two Deep Zone.
For tomorrow, it's the year in bad ideas.
Ooh.
I took some of the worst ideas of 2025, wrote little memories of them, and we're going to put them on there. And then take a couple days break, and then there's going to be big playoff previews as soon as we have playoffs to preview. Nice. And you've got the resolutions, right?
New Year's resolutions going up sometime tomorrow morning, hopefully before you wake up. It might be around breakfast time, depending on how much I can get done between now and my dad's birthday dinner later tonight.
That's right.
Perhaps a mailbag on Friday, depending on post-holiday motivation. And then the column on Monday, we're going to zero in on who needs it, whose legacy is going to be defined in the next 4 weeks. That's the column. I'm borrowing a page from your playbook, not to kill myself with worrying about Sunday.
Yes.
The bigger picture. Who needs it?
That's a great approach to this, because you can look at it and say, the Bears don't need it in that stage. Like they're building the story now as they go, nor do the Patriots. Bills?
Now or never. Might be now or never.
Might be now or never, right. And that's a great way to approach these things. I love it.
He's Mike Tanier. Follow him on Blue Sky at Mike Tanier. Check out the Two Deep Zone on Substack. It's mandatory reading. I grab my Nitro Cold Brew every Monday morning and read it before I start my day. You should as well. Subscribe to Between the Hashmarks podcast on Apple Podcasts. Leave us those 5-star ratings and reviews. We read every review on the show, so make sure that you're leaving those 5-star ratings and reviews. They do help grow the show. Subscribe to Between the Hashmarks on Substack. Check me out on YouTube at Matt Lombardo 975. Mike, this has been a ton of fun. It's been a ton of fun all year. I'm excited to preview the playoffs next week and sink our teeth into those matchups, but a lot of fun. Great chatting with you, my friend, and enjoy the end of 2025, and hopefully 2026 is a little better.
Now, tomorrow night, I'm going to get in the bag.